Jude is a lovely middle-aged woman with a child and a loving husband. Recently though, she hasn't been feeling the same. For multiple days she's been forgetting to brush her hair, she has forgotten to take out the trash, and she's forgotten to prepare for the presentation at the end of the week. Her husband started noticing that too. This is very unlike her. I mean, she is a very meticulous person usually. She likes to be very well organized and very well kept together. Things are a little bit weird. A month has passed and things have only progressed worse. Her forgetfulness has started to extend to her own husband and child. She no longer is the same person. She's been a lot more aggressive and a lot more impulsive. Heck, the other day she was conversing with someone on the couch, but there was no one there. She can't walk properly anymore. It's as if she's drunk all the time. Her legs and arms just seem to be twitching a lot more recently, and those twitches seem to be triggered by loud noises when the door slams. One day her husband finds her on the floor, seizing and convulsing. Scared for her life, he calls 911 right away and they take her to the emergency room. Jude suffered a seizure. Her husband reveals all the changes that Jude has been experiencing over the past 2 months. This sets an alarm in the medical team's heads. They begin promptly investigating. They're all hoping they jump to a wrong conclusion, because what her husband described are the features of Creutzfeldt-Jakob Disease, the world's deadliest disease. Creutzfeldt-Jakob Disease is a prion disease affecting the brain and the central nervous system. In Jude's brain, there are normal proteins called prions. They have a very specific function and they work normally. The thing about these prion proteins is that they are folded in a very specific manner. If for any reason this three-dimensional shape is disrupted, they become abnormal misfolded prion proteins, meaning that they're no longer functional. But that's not why they are dangerous. Prion proteins are infectious, meaning that they convert normal-looking prion proteins into abnormal misfolded prion proteins, much like a zombie apocalypse. And then those new misfolded prion proteins convert normal-looking prion proteins again, kicking off a very deadly cascade. Eventually, all those prion proteins accumulate together inside Jude's brain, killing portions of it. Her forgetfulness, her personality changes, it all makes sense now. Prion proteins are accumulating in the portions of the brain that are responsible for her memory and responsible for her personality, destroying these areas of the brain rapidly. But things don't end there. The medical team begins to perform specific examinations. They ask her to read a sentence on a paper, but the words on the paper all seem gibberish to her. She can't understand them. This is known as alexia, the inability to recognize words. The faces around her, she can no longer recognize them as people. She can still recognize the owner of the voice, but she can no longer recognize the face itself. This is known as agnosia. And finally, when she was asked to play her favorite game on the phone, she was no longer able to perform those complex movements she liked to do. This is known as apraxia, the inability to perform skilled or complicated actions. They ask her a series of questions. What day is it today? Sunday. What is the date? Sunday. What city do you live in? Sunday. Where are we now? Sunday. Why did this all happen? What's the cause of all this? There are 3 identifiable ways this disease starts. The first is when one of the prion proteins inside the brain randomly, by complete chance, misfolds and kicks off the cascade, such as in the case of Jude. This is known as sporadic Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. The second way this disease occurs is through genetics. A gene is passed down from generation to generation. And the third is through acquiring a prion protein from an external source. This could be through medical procedures such as organ transplants, or through consumption of contaminated foods such as beef. The thing about this disease is that it doesn't start right away. These prion proteins sit in Jude's brain dormant for a very long time, until suddenly, one day, for reasons that are not known, this cascade starts triggering. The medical team performed many investigations. Those include things like brain imaging and a lumbar puncture. A lumbar puncture is a procedure to take the fluid surrounding the brain to examine it for specific signs of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. These investigations only seem to further point towards CJD. You see, CJD cannot be clinically confirmed with 100% certainty without taking a brain biopsy. However, the danger there is that if a brain biopsy is taken, there's risk of contamination to the medical team. Is there anything that can be done? No. This is why this is the world's deadliest disease. There is no cure. There is no treatment that delays the course of this disease. Once the cascade starts, it can never be stopped. There is nothing to be done to save the brain. Over the next months, she only deteriorated further. She could no longer walk anymore. Her memory only got worse. She no longer recognizes her husband or her lovely child. She no longer responded to any words or sounds. Whatever sense of self and personality she had only faded further away as the prions tore her brain apart from the inside mercilessly. The unfortunate reality of this disease and other prion diseases is that once they're acquired and symptoms start showing, the disease is 100% fatal within a year. The dementia that Jude experienced is rapidly progressive and unstoppable. 2 months later, Jude left the world behind. No sense of self, no longer recognizing her husband and child, no future, no hope.